Hi everybody, Dr. Tammy here with Dr. Tammy's Life Flip. And today I'm very excited to do Module 3, and this is self-discovery and branding yourself, personal branding. This is really cool topic. Of all the Life Flip modules, in Module 1 we did the deep dive into conscious engineering. So if you haven't watched that one, you can go to the YouTube channel and you can watch it there, or you can go to my Facebook and you can watch it on there. Module 2 was creative sensorization, so that is goal setting on steroids. So I hope you really enjoyed that one. If you haven't watched that, you might want to go back and watch that one first. But this one is pretty standalone, so if you haven't watched those other ones, you should be just fine anyway. And then today we're going to do self-discovery and branding yourself. And this is one of the most fun topics because I just think it's delicious when you start looking at who you are and what you can bring to the table, to the planet, to your family, to your friends, and really focus on those things. And it's all part of the API movement as well. So if you're not up on the API yet, basically we're just spreading a movement of assuming positive intent. And one of the most powerful things that you can do in your life is to assume positive intent in everyone around you. And when you think back on your life, and when I first started really delving into assuming positive intent, I had to do some inventory. I had to look back on my life and I had to look at times and places where I'd not assumed positive intent, and it caused me a whole lot of trouble, a whole lot of grief in my life. And I truly believe that you never get it wrong and you never get it done. But if you have made choices in your life that have showed up lots of different things that maybe aren't things that you're really liking, then probably you're a little bit off in your manifesting when you're looking at what you want to bring about in your life. So, self-discovery and branding can really help you focus on the positivity. And with assuming positive intent, it really helps you assume positive intent for God and the universe, that everything is kind of conspiring to make your life awesome. So, this is really fun. And I just want to kind of go in just a little bit deeper into who you are and what you bring to the table. And hello, all my Facebook friends. Hello, Heffern. I'm so excited. There are so many wonderful people out there joining me today. I know you could be a lot of places on Halloween Day, so it's just fun to have everybody out there on Facebook Live world. So I'm going to get right into why brand yourself. So number one is to identify your assets and to maximize them. To maximize them. That's the important thing. So identifying your assets really kind of brings that to light, and then what you can do to maximize them. So number two is to create a new reality. So if you don't like the reality that's showing up right now, or maybe you'd like just a little bit different version of the reality that's showing up right now, then you're going to have to do something to create a new reality. So I have a little bit of nerdy science that I'm going to kind of go through and kind of share with you how you can create that new reality. Because sometimes people are like, I don't like what's showing up and I don't know how to stop it. I don't know how to change the momentum in the other direction. So that's what we're going to talk about today, is how to create a new reality. Okay. And number three is identify your core values and build self-worth. And if you remember in the first two modules, one of the things that I talked about is you don't manifest by what you want. I have been a student of the law of attraction and manifestation, and I realized that just sitting around wanting things didn't make them happen for me. And then when I realized that you don't manifest what you want, you manifest what you believe, I got a little bit anxious because I thought, oh my gosh, that's all fine and good, but how do I change my beliefs? So this process is all going through how you change your belief system so that you can manifest based on what you believe. But changing your beliefs is based on your core values and your self-worth. So if you have a different self-worth than you have right now, different things in your life can show up. And this is not about thinking that you're worthy. The law of attraction is not, it's impartial. We're all, quote, worthy. I mean, there is no worthiness, right? So, but there is this little hiccup that you have to value your worth for things to show up in this physical existence. Now, as we kind of play by the rules of physical laws and physical manifestation here, it's really important that you shift your self-worth. One of the examples I used in module 2 was that when I was young and my family, had financial troubles and things like that, my mom said, well, if you go to med school, you can be a doctor and doctors make a good living. And so as I looked into that, I found out that doctors could make probably $100,000 to $200,000. And so I believed that was possible. So I went to med school, and when I came out, that was my ceiling. I thought, okay, that was my self-worth, and I thought that's how much I was worth. And then when I started learning from my gurus and my coaches and my business coaches that I could shift my self-worth and to really value myself to a level where abundance would come so much greater to me, my ceiling has completely changed, so that now there is no ceiling for me. Millions are, potentially even billions are the abundance that's available to me. I can get online and I can sell courses and I can do all sorts of things that are available to me. I never would have dreamed that that was possible, but it was because my self-worth was still kind of stuck in this box. So let's say, for example, that you're a business person, or let's say that you work as a, as a beautician. You're comparing yourself to other beauticians. So you might think that your ceiling is what other beauticians make. So if other beauticians, make, you know, I don't even know what beauticians make, but let's say $50,000 a year around you, then that's kind of where your self-worth is going to lie in that business world. And so really, if you are a beautician who learns about hair loss and vitamins, and you create programs and you get online and you sell those programs, millions literally are your new ceiling. So there are no limitations to what you can manifest. But if abundance or money is one of the things that you're trying to manifest, then you got to get really clear on your self-worth. And so part of self-branding is part of that self-worth, if you can kind of follow that thinking along just a little bit. And so basically, your core values are also built into your self-worth, because you're not going to go against your integrity when you're building your self-worth about something. So, the example I've used in the past is, if honesty is one of your core values, then you could make millions potentially being a bank robber, but that's not going to line up with your core values. So you really have to be clear on what your core values are, what your self-worth is, and what your belief system is about what is possible for you. And I think it's really interesting because corporations brand all the time. I mean, you look at McDonald's, you look at the Golden Arches, you look at anybody who's branded, right? Or you look at any celebrity who is basically a superstar, Angelina Jolie. She has branded herself. And so there are certain attributes that you just kind of, when you think of Angelina Jolie, that you think about those attributes. So she spent a lot of time branding herself. Me, as a professional entity, as Dr. Tammy, I've spent a lot of time branding myself. And so people know that I do hormones and that I help people, work with their nutrition and their fitness and all those kinds of things. So, I've branded myself in that way to identify my assets so that I can adjust my self-worth so that I can manifest more things associated with that. So whatever your business is, or, whatever your professionalism area is, it's really important to brand yourself there. But the self-branding and identifying your core values and those things are really important. So one of the things, your assignment that you can do, is to really give some thought to your core values. In module 2, I kind of go through those core values a little bit, identify those, and then make sure that we are reverse engineering our lives, like I talked about in module 2 as well. So begin with the end in mind. And I mentioned writing your obituary. So writing your obituary will help you identify the things that you want to accomplish between now and however many years you may have left. And so you reverse engineer that. And so part of this branding process is to make sure that you're very clear on who you are, who you're presenting to the world, and how you bring things about in your life based on those principles. So very, very important. I love this saying that life isn't about finding yourself, it's about creating yourself. And you can create yourself new every single day if you want to. You know, part of the hiccup that we run into is that the people in our lives that we have built relationship with, they know us as who we've been. So when we start trying to show up as someone different sometimes, or adopt a different personality sometimes, or do things just a little bit differently, sometimes we get a little bit of kickback, right? So we start trying to brand ourselves as someone who is very financially savvy, let's say. And then our friends have known us as somebody who has just been very frivolous with money. And so, you know, they're like, hey, where's that fun loving guy who always bought all the beers and stuff? And you're like, well, I'm trying to invest in a new business. And so you get a little bit of kickback from the people that you've known in the past. And so that can happen as you're trying to kind of recreate yourself a little bit. If you don't like the way your life is showing up right now, it's important that you look at the areas that might possibly need a little attention. I always say you're not broken and you don't need fixed. But if you don't like the way your life's showing up in any aspect, then those are the areas that you want to focus on just a little bit, and you may want to make some adjustments in those areas. So I love Supergirl, and I love the thought of identifying with the superhero that's inside your higher self. You might hear about that, you know, in some of the spiritual work and things that some of the other gurus are out there promoting. But I love thinking that I have all the answers, that somewhere in me is the girl who's got it together, that knows all the answers, basically. And you have within you all of the answers. And I saw Serena just came on too, and she was Wonder Woman for Halloween. I love it. So tapping into that higher self is so important. And sometimes just feeling the power of who we really are, because all the answers are in there. And you know, sometimes in my life when I've just felt so overwhelmed, very stage 2, right? So go back and look at the stages if you haven't in module 1. But sometimes when I feel very stage 2 or very much a victim, I just like want to like curl up in a little ball, and I just feel like, oh my gosh, I don't know the answer. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. How many times have you said, I just don't know what to do? But somewhere inside you, you know that you really do know what to do. And the answers are all in there. And that's your higher self, and that's who you can connect to. And that is why I love meditation. And I can't say enough about meditation. Some people think meditation's really hokey, but I would recommend that if you are really looking at this process and going through all these modules, and looking at becoming the most amazing you possible, the most amazing Supergirl, that you consider meditation. And literally, if you just would invest 10 minutes a day, I spend more than 10 minutes curling my hair. But if you could invest 10 minutes a day in meditation, it is so powerful. So how do you meditate? If you're a busy person and you say, I don't have time to meditate, then that is all the more reason that you need to meditate. If you're too busy to meditate, then you really need to meditate. So there is power in just getting your mind quiet and going to the nowhere. That I have a guru that I follow. His name is Dr. Joe Dispenza, so you might want to look him up. But he talks about the nowhere nothing. And so it's just this quiet breathing space where you are uninterrupted for 10 minutes in your day, waking part of your day, where you almost kind of go into the, I call it the here and the there. This is the here, that's the there. And the there is heaven. The there is wherever the not here is. And so I don't, that's pretty simplified, but I truly believe that spending just a little bit of time in heaven every day, connected with your higher self, connected with your higher power, is really important. And if you're a praying person, great, then just focus all your time on praying. But really, I believe that if you're going to use prayer as meditation, that the process of getting quiet, really, really quiet, is important, and completely relaxed, and using breathing to get in tone. So, you know, if your prayers are all about just talking, because usually when people pray, the way I was grown, the way I grew up to think of prayer was, okay, please God, give me this, and please God, give me that, and I'm really grateful for everything that you've given me, but I really want this, and I really want that, and oh, by the way, can you give me this, and can you give me that, and like, and then you kind of get exhausted because you've just like spent all your energy with the gimme, gimme, gimmes. And so that's really kind of what prayer looked like to me when I was, growing up. So prayer for me now is getting really quiet and really connected and thinking about all the wonderful things that I have in my life, my wonderful son, my wonderful husband, my wonderful friends, my warm home with air conditioning and heat, and my warm, cooled car that's very comfortable, and all the really wonderful people out there who I'm connecting with, and just my career, my everything that I have. I can do that, so I can focus on all of that, and I'm not talking at all. I'm just focusing, and in a prayer of gratitude. There are lots of meditations on YouTube that you can go to. That there's abundance meditations where basically they just talk you through breathing and relaxing. So if you have a hard time breathing and relaxing, I really recommend that you find a YouTube meditation or something like that. And I, I'm thinking about creating a meditation with the API, assuming positive intent. So hopefully I'll get that done maybe here in the near future, and you can use that if you've never really meditated before, and that would be a really nice um, meditation to kind of ease into. So I'll put that on my to-do list on my whiteboard back there to make that. But there's lots out there. So just getting quiet and getting in tune with your higher power, with your higher self. And that's where all the answers are. So that's where all the creative stuff comes from. If you feel stuck, like you're working on a project, the other day, someone had reached out to me about building a wellness center. And I was trying to think of a name for the wellness center. So I thought, you know what, I was really stuck and it wasn't coming. And I'm like, I know, I got this. And so I just went and I meditated for about 15 minutes. And when I came out, had the answer. So sometimes you just have to get quiet. And I think it was Einstein who said that you can't solve a problem from the level of vibration or energy that the problem exists. So sometimes you have to just go get your mind quiet and come back to it before you can tap into that higher self a little bit. So I want to talk a little bit about your personality creates your personal reality. That's kind of a little play on words almost, but I want you to think about your personality. And what is your personality? Your personality is really just based on how you think, how you act, and how you feel. So if you are thinking a certain way, and then you feel a certain way, and then you act a certain way, and you practice that over and over and over, then that's what your personality starts to become. And so, as you are a little kid and you get exposed to certain things, you start to learn certain behaviors. And sometimes, if you're in an abused home or if you're in different environments, you can learn different things that create your personality. And sometimes they're very protective, like a lot of heart walls and a lot of, just defensiveness. And so that becomes a part of your personality because you feel like you had to do that because the thoughts you were thinking were like, if I don't, form some kind of protection, then I will basically not, someone's going to hurt me really bad or kill me or whatever. And so you build up these self walls and that becomes a part of your personality. I think for me, when I was growing up, part of my personality was that being on the autistic spectrum, which I didn't even realize they didn't even have that word back then, but I was really weird and really awkward, or so I felt. And so I spent a lot of time trying to hide that. And that became a part of my personality in not letting people get too close. So I didn't have many friends. And so I didn't really connect and have friends saying programming. Programming is all part of that process where you kind of build your personality based on what's going on around you. So part of this process is I want you to think about really getting quiet this week and thinking about who you are. And we get so busy that we don't ever slow down to just think about who we are and what we're putting forward to the world. When you think about businesses and businesses brand themselves, the businesses that are the most powerful are the businesses that are different. Not the biggest, not the cheapest, not they're the people who are different. And we really start to connect with people who we can identify with. And so some of those little quirky things, like me feeling like I'm weird, for people who feel a little awkward or have trouble socially connecting, sometimes if I can be vulnerable and I can tell them that, then they can identify with that just a little bit. So whatever your kind of weird, quirky things are, sometimes that's exactly what people need to connect with. And remember, I said on module 2 that isolation is a dream killer. You cannot create anything big in your life without alliance with other people. So you have to connect. And part of that connecting is really identifying who you are so that you know your assets, you know your self-worth, you know what you can bring to the table. And when you're very clear on that, then alliances just match up all over. That vibration is just spot on and things just start showing up for you. So it's very important. So your personality is based on what we said, how you think, how you act, and how you feel. And to create a new personal reality, you have to examine the thoughts that you've been thinking and change them. It has been estimated, now this is kind of cool, I'm going to slow down here just a little bit, that we think up to 70,000 thoughts a day. And for people like me who are like thinkers, I am like a massive like thinker. I'm an obsessive thinker. I think. I'm constantly thinking, even sometimes going to sleep at night. I have to do a little meditation, just kind of breathe and slow down a little bit because I'm constantly thinking. So I think some people think more thoughts and maybe some people think less, but think about 70,000 thoughts a day. Now, here's the crazy thing. 90% of those are the same thoughts every single day. Is that not crazy? And I think about that. And so I heard this and I slowed down and I thought, you know what? I'm going to write down the 10 things that I think about the most. And I'm going to show you that list here in just a minute. And it's really true. Even though I may be having 70,000 thoughts a day, 90% of them are the same freaking thoughts every day. So that's really powerful. If you want to change your reality or you want to change your personality, you have to change the thoughts that you're thinking. And you're thinking the same dang thoughts every single day. And I had no idea that I was doing that. So the thing is that our biology becomes a reflection of our consciousness, of our thinking, our thoughts that we keep thinking. And beliefs are just thoughts that we keep thinking. I mean, you can convince anybody of anything. You can convince yourself of anything if you just think it long enough. So you have to be really conscious of your thoughts. So you have to become someone else based on who you were. So to have a different reality, to have different thoughts, you have to become someone else. So I'm not saying you're not really cool and you don't have really cool assets. You do, you absolutely do. And I'm not saying that you have to become someone totally different, but you have to start thinking different thoughts. So how do you do that? Well, there's this thing called neuroplasticity in the brain, and it's the brain's ability to learn a new thing. And I just recently tested this. I was listening to someone who said that you could learn to do anything in about 20 hours. And so I've always wanted to learn to play the guitar. So I thought I would start with something easy like the ukulele because it only has 4 chords. And I had heard somewhere that if you just learned 4 chords that you could play just about any pop song. So I did that. I got a ukulele. My husband bought it for me for Christmas last year. And literally within 20 hours, I was playing the ukulele. And with a little practice, I could play probably 20 different songs. It was crazy. And I was like, I was really testing my neuroplasticity because what do? We tell ourselves, I'm too old. I can't learn that. Maybe when I was little. And then we hear things like little kids can learn lots of languages and it's easy for them because their brains are so plastic. And then we start thinking, we make these myths in our mind that as we get older, we can't learn anything new. And that is absolute crap. So I tested it. So I did it with the ukulele. And then I was like, oh, I love the ukulele, but I really want to do the guitar. So my husband got me a guitar when I started talking like that, and so I got the guitar and I learned the guitar and it was a lot easier because I already knew the ukulele. And so I just learned new chords and that was really super cool. So literally in 20 hours, I mean, that was like practicing 20 to 30 minutes a day. And it sounded terrible when I first started. OMG. I mean, it was so bad. I just see on Facebook Live one of my old band friends on there. And hello, girl, how are you? I remember just like I had all these limiting beliefs because when I was in band, I was really terrible at the clarinet and I got in trouble all the time because I hated it. I didn't want to be playing that anyway. I wanted to be playing a guitar. And everybody said, there's no guitar in band, and so I just never learned to play the thing I wanted to play. And then as I got older, I said, well, I'm too old now. And so we make all these limiting beliefs. So to be able to learn the guitar in pretty much 20 hours. Now, I'm not saying I'm a classical guitarist or that, but I can go to my mom's assisted living facility, and I can play 20 songs, and that's good enough. So you can learn new things. And as I play and practice more, I'm getting better at it. I'm almost 50 years old. So if I can learn something as daunting as playing a guitar when I have never had any experience with that, no musical experience at all, you can learn anything. So you can relearn any process, and you can become very, very good at something just by the neuroplasticity that is in your brain. So I saw this one experiment one time. This guy was riding a bicycle, and he flipped the front part of the bicycle so that when you turn right, the bicycle went left. When you went left, the bicycle went right. And it took him like 3 months to be able to learn that bicycle, because we are so used to riding the bicycle a certain way. And so basically, his little kid, who was like 10 years old, could ride the bicycle within like 10 minutes. He figured it out. So it is true that as we age and those neurons are formed, it is a little bit harder to have that neuroplasticity, but it is not only possible, but it's important. It is important that you learn new things, and it is important that you make your brain plastic every day. And I say learn one new thing every day or more, but at least one new thing every day, because keeping the brain plastic and keeping those neurons connecting and learning new connections is really, really important. And especially with all the research with Alzheimer's and all those diseases of the memory, if you don't use it, you will lose it. So you want to continue to make those new connections. It's very, very important. So, this neuroplasticity is your ability to change your thinking and to change your brain, to literally rewire your brain. And they've done MRIs and PET scans, and they've shown that even just thinking a thought can change your brain. So, they have taken athletes and they have had them practice a certain move and imagine it in their mind, and they actually can show on brain waves the same connections forming and lighting up as people who are actually doing the action. And then they've actually shown that people's performance has improved. So there's a huge amount of information in athletic performance and all those areas where performance is really competitive or important. So that neuroplasticity is very, very important. So I want you to make a commitment this week, not only to API and share that with your world around you, but I want you to make a commitment to think about the thoughts that you think on a regular basis. Because remember, we said 90% of them are the same thoughts that you think every day. So when I did this, I made a column on a notebook and I put my old thoughts and my new thoughts. So I pretty much, I've only got 5 on here just because I wanted to be brief with this, but at least do 10. And I actually did a lot more. I think I did like 20. But so these are the thoughts that I think. So I'm going to let you inside my brain just a little bit. And I don't think after you hear them that they're probably that uncommon of thoughts. One of the thoughts that I thought a lot was, I'm tired. How many times have you thought, I'm tired? And sometimes you really are. Sometimes, I stay up late writing sometimes, or things are going on and I really am tired. So if you're really tired, then just go take a nap and stop saying it. But that was a thought that I think a lot. I'm tired. And so the new thought that I want to replace that with is, I'm going to do something different. Because normally when I'm feeling tired, I'm bored or I'm burned out on doing what I'm doing, and I just need to go do something different. Because usually I get up moving around and I start thinking different thoughts. That thought, it gets replaced or it goes away. Another thought that I have a lot is, I wish I had more money. So that old thought comes up a lot, because no matter how much money you have, I think you can always have that thought, I want more money. So I replace that thought with a new thought, and I focus on replacing that new thought. And I put this on my whiteboard too, so I can look at this all the time, because these are the same thoughts I think almost every day. It's not like I have 100 different thoughts and I have to write 100. These are the same thoughts that pop in my head every single day. So instead of saying, I wish I had more money, now I say, I have enough money for now. I have enough money for today. All my needs are met. I'm content. And that's not saying that having more money or taking action or having dreams and, having your vision board, that you don't need to do that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying there is a thought that I'm replacing that says, I have enough, have enough. Instead of saying, I don't have enough, I'm saying, I have enough. And if I keep saying, I have enough, then that vibration changes to I have enough, and then I will attract plenty. So, and I've seen this happen in my life over and over again, and I've had so many people tell me that this is so powerful. So, don't say I don't have enough, say I have enough, and just keep focusing on the enough. Here's another thought. I'm really going to be vulnerable here, transparent, let you in my head. I have some shame thoughts, some guilt thoughts. I wish I was a better mom, a better wife, or a better daughter, a better friend, a better sister. You fill in the blank. And those thoughts are, pretty much very recurrent for me today, or anything that comes up. I'm a few minutes late picking my son up to school. Oh, I wish I was a better mom. I didn't really plan anything for us for dinner. Oh, I wish I was a better wife. I did this or I did every little thing that shows up, and I'm thinking, I wish I was better. So my thought I'm going to replace that with life flip, right? This is all about flipping, is I love my child. I'm not going to think about, I wish I was a better mom. I'm just going to think about how much I love my son, how awesome he is. That's just a different thought process. If I think, I wish I was a better wife, I'm just going to think, man, my husband's hot. Man, my husband's awesome. I love him to death. Or, if I think, oh, I should go see my mom more, I'm going to think, oh, I love my mom so much. She's so awesome. And just really focus on loving my mom. One of the other thoughts that comes up is, my house is a mess. Have you ever thought that? So that one comes up a lot for me. And I just think I'm grateful to have a home. How awesome is that to have a home? Or I should be more productive. Maybe I'm just not feeling very productive today. I should be more productive. So, so one thing that I think sometimes is, I'm just being right now. I'm not doing anything, I'm just being. And sometimes just being is a really important part of life. So just being can be really important as well. So, what makes you different? Let's just talk a little bit about what makes you different, because those are the things that you're going to want to use to brand yourself, and those are the really powerful things that you're going to take forward with who you are. And I love the saying, be yourself, everyone else is already taken. So, whoever you are is perfect, and it is a creation of a blend of everything that you are and everything that you've chosen to be in this existence. So when I say create a new personality, or I'm just saying that if you are creating from negative intent and you want to shift it to positive intent, you may have to rethink the thoughts that you think just a little bit. And it doesn't mean that you're broken. Remember, you're not broken, you don't need fixed. But it may just mean that you need to shift your thoughts just a little bit. So that's really focusing on just being yourself, but having more positive thoughts. And I want you to think a little bit about how the world sees you. And sometimes people who have negative self talk, or are really hard on themselves, or are having a struggle with self love. And I say that self love is basically a matter of just deciding that you're going to love yourself, and that all that is crap that we have learned to model to not love ourselves, to be humble or whatever. I mean, that is all just crap. So just let it go, and just really honor that you are someone fantastic, that you are a superpower, a force to be reckoned with. And some people say, well, that's easier said than done. And I'm like, no, it's really not. It really is just a conscious decision. So old thought, new thought, right? Old thought, I'm not good enough. New thought, I'm enough. Old thought, I'm not pretty enough. New thought, I'm enough. So just kind of work with the new thought and being enough, and the new thought being fabulous, kind of make those little small shifts. So think about how the world sees you, and think about, from a positive intent, how the world might see you. Do they see you as passionate or curious or funny? And I think we all kind of know some of our personality traits that we've developed, what makes us kind of unique. Like, my son is really funny, and he's really quirky, and so I think he would understand that the world sees him as funny and quirky, and that makes him cool and who he is. um, I would say I think the world probably sees me as sensitive. because sometimes I can be a little over too sensitive, but I think the world probably sees me as sensitive and passionate, and those are really important. Those are tied into my core values. So I want to make sure that that matches up and that the world sees me the same way that I'm projecting myself, because sometimes that's not always the case. And so doing this process and looking at who you are and how you're projecting yourself forward can be really valuable. You might even ask maybe three, four, five of your closest friends, how do you see me? What are the core values that you see me exhibit? What are the traits that you see me exhibit? What do you think of when you think of me? So that can be really important to kind of put that piece together, because we don't always know how the outside world sees what's coming in, basically. And the process of self discovery basically goes from the conscious to the subconscious. And, we talked about the stages between stage 1 to stage 4, and how that goes from the unconscious to more of the conscious. Basically, within the subconscious are our core beliefs. So, whoever you are with integrity or humor or, whatever um, kind of makes you who you are, your core beliefs basically kind of get internalized as your values. And your values are what show up in your day to day life, which then shows up as your personal choices. And so your personal choices will basically dictate how your life shows up and what you do in your day and how you take action. And then your behavioral patterns are kind of the next layer. We call that nature versus nurture. And so some of that is environmentally what you've learned, some of that is part of your DNA and part of who your parents were, and kind of all built into that as well. And then all the way to the consciousness, which is your perception, how we see life or how we see our reactions. So that's all part of this self-discovery process and knowing who you are. So going all the way from your core beliefs to your perceptions about what's showing up in your life is really important to understand. Why do you need to understand that? And what are you going to do with the answer? And how will it change your life? So those are some things that you'll want to think about it as well. And how will I make different decisions? And I would say that when you are operating from old belief to new belief, from I wish I was a better mom to I love my son, now we have a new belief system, and that new belief system helps me make different choices. So if I'm just focused on loving my son, if I am focused on the old belief, I wish I was a better mom, I might do some things out of guilt or parental guilt that really don't serve my son. So I might be like, oh, feeling like a bad mom. You want to go get ice cream? You want to go get, cake? That's really not good for him. And that's kind of just self soothing as a parent out of my parental guilt. And I've done that so many times. I have made decisions and just bought him crap and, and which just kind of makes me feel worse. It hasn't helped my situation at all. So if you're doing things out of guilt, or you're making business decisions out of guilt or from the old place, then that's what's going to show up. So when you make a different thought, you make different decisions. Because when I'm just focused on loving my son, then I think things like, hey, we want to go fishing. Do you want to do something that he'll enjoy? That, I can be like a better, more present mom that way. And I feel better about myself. So that's really important too when we talk about our self worth and how we manifest from our self worth. And then how do I think of myself differently going forward is really important as well. So, one of the exercises I love to do is self drawings, and this is really fun. And I have a whole interpretation in my book. And if you don't have my book, you can just inbox me or message me, and I can send you the interpretation of self drawing. But basically, all you do is get some crayons or some markers or something and draw yourself, and everything kind of has an interpretation. And what's interesting is sometimes the age at which your emotional age that you can kind of get stuck a little bit in will show up in the way you draw yourself. And so it doesn't matter. You might say, well, I'm not an artist. I can't even draw a stick figure. That's all part of it. So if you can't draw a stick figure, that kind of goes into your emotional stunting. So, when someone gets stressed, they regress. So when you regress, you usually regress to the age at which you had a lot of emotional trauma in your life. So I know exactly where I regressed to. And when I did my self drawing, it matched up exactly. So I'm not saying like, you know, if this has any kind of psychological meaning or that I need professional psychological help, I might. But, some people can, they use this a lot in therapy and stuff like that. So we're not using it for that. But to identify the age that I go back to. So now I know that where I go back to is about 7 years old. So this drawing matched up to what a 7-year-old could draw. And I know that when I get stressed and I regress, that everything that was going on in my life when I was around 7 has made up part of my personality, my defensiveness, my heart walls, my fear, my abandonment, my rejection issues, and my awareness of that. Then, when I get stressed, when my husband does something and I forget to assume positive intent, I can realize also that I'm acting like a 7-year-old little girl right now. And so, and I can tell him that, and I can say, I feel like a 7-year-old little girl right now, and I'm sorry, I'm not the grown superhero woman that you love and cherish right now. I'm a 7-year-old girl, so just kind of let me be in that space for a minute. But once I can kind of respect that and honor that, then I can move forward. So that can be really valuable. And knowing what your childhood experiences are, I have a whole module that I'm going to do on rewriting your story, your life story. So part of the life flip is to identify your story, because part of your story is part of your old thoughts. And if you are a victim, like stage 2, and you keep saying that I grew up poor and I just, I didn't go to school and I'm never going to have any money, because you really set yourself up with those old thoughts. So to have a new thought, or to have a new reality and create a new personal reality and a new personality, which is an abundant personality, which is a rock star, love and life, abundant with everything that you want, then you have to work on those old thoughts and those new thoughts. So if your childhood experience is anything other than amazing to you right now, this is an area that you really need to dig into. Because here's my story. And I'm going to be really vulnerable and really real with you. And API was one of the main things that helped me make this shift. Even though I've taught these modules for the past year, I really struggled with my childhood story. And the story that I told was not pretty. The story was of childhood emotional and physical abuse. And I do not tell that story anymore. Now, I am not saying that it is okay to abuse children emotionally or physically. And I'm not saying that what happened in my past was okay, or that I'm particularly letting anybody off the hook for their behaviors. I am not. But I'm saying my interpretation of my childhood story is completely different. And I realize that my father, who I for years commiserated with my brother to talk about how horrible our childhood was, I see him as a scared little boy who had dealt with alcoholism in his own life, poverty in his own life, who had medical issues, who took medications for those medical issues, who had a lot of programming that made him who he was. And I know that my experience of that was negative for so many years, and I just assumed negative intent, that my dad didn't really love me, and that blah 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 blah, you fill in the blank. And I told this horrible story about my childhood, and I was a victim, and I wanted people to go, oh, I'm so sorry for you, that's terrible. And now my story is completely different. Now my story is, I had great loving parents who did the best they could under the circumstances. End of story. And I'm not attached to any old story. And so when I want to say the old thought of, oh my gosh, I'm messed up and I'm broken because I had a bad childhood, my new thought is, I'm amazing and I'm stronger because of everything that happened. And so I've completely flipped that, and assuming positive intent has really helped me do that. So if you have a story that you tell about your childhood that is anything other than, I was so blessed to have all the opportunities that I had and the people in my life, I understand that they just were doing the very best they could. Anything other story than that, you've got some work to do. And I know you might be thinking, that's crazy, that woman's crazy, there's no way I can make a positive story out of my childhood story. But I promise you, you can. And if anybody can do it, if I can do it, anybody can do it, to flip that, because I hung on. I always said that's my story. I'm sticking to it. I hung on to my story of abuse for many, many years, and that story does not serve me anymore. Those old thoughts do not serve me anymore. My new personality is a girl who had an amazing childhood story that made her exactly who she is. I want to talk about loving yourself, and I keep saying that really it's just a decision to, when you start assuming positive intent in everyone around you and you make that a conscious effort, you can start to assume positive intent in yourself, because a lot of what shows up in your life is projection. What projection means is that you have a thought or you have a feeling that's a negative thought or a negative feeling that's not serving you. And again, I'm not going to get into judging right or wrong. I'm just saying if you don't like what's showing up in your life, you got to make some different choices. So if you are making some choices that are showing up some different things in your life, you've got to make some different choices. And part of that is not projecting. So when you project that negativity, then it comes out in everybody around you. And I talked about module 2 that vibration of negativity creates more of that vibration of negativity that comes into your life. So you have to create that vibration of positivity. And part of that is to be able to really love yourself. And part of loving yourself is to assume positive intent in yourself. And when you can see positive intent in the world around you, and when you can see positive intent in God, then you know that you are not a mistake, that God didn't mess up, God didn't lose your file, and you're not broken and you don't need fixed. And then you can really just kind of start loving who you are. And part of loving who I am is loving the quirky, weird part of me, loving the part that has a problem connecting, that can't really go to parties because I'm the awkward, shy girl in the corner, is really loving and connecting with that part that I've kind of not looked at and not really loved before. Becoming physically who I want to become. I've always had, kind of awkward looks. And so, really embracing and maximizing my physical aspects, like exercising and working out and taking care of myself and Botox, those kinds of things, are really powerful. And I'm not saying those are right or wrong for, or those serve people or they don't serve people. But in my life, having a focus on keeping myself, the projection that I put out to the world, keeping that up is very important for me. So, if you wear makeup or if you work out or if you do things to take care of yourself or you try to dress nice, those are all important parts of the way you project yourself and the way you love yourself. And I know a lot of my self-love issues that I've struggled with over the years were because I was not assuming positive intent. I was not assuming positive intent in those around me. So I was thinking if they're all negative, then I must deserve to not be loved because they're nasty and they're treating me nasty. So I must be nasty. So when I started assuming positive intent in other people, then I realized that people are actually pretty amazing and they're just doing the best they can. And then it kind of takes any self-worth issues away that I'm not good enough, because I'm like, hey, we're all just doing the best we can. And so it really kind of levels up your self-love and loving yourself. So part of this is I want you to really think about who you are and what makes you special, what makes you unique. And ask yourself, what do I need more than anything else right now? So self-care states, if you're tired, if you're hungry, if you're sick, if you need help with your hormones, if you need whatever you need, address those self-care states, because it's really hard to put your best self forward when you're just off. And what happens is you have a thought, which then creates a feeling, which then creates an action, which then creates neurohormonal chemical processes in your body. So if you need help undoing some of that stuff, ask for help. Get that help that you need. That's what I help people with. And there are lots of people out there who can help you with that. I'm not the only one, and I might not resonate with you, but there are lots of people out there who can help you with that process. So if you've kind of moved into having those negative thoughts, those 90% of thoughts that you think every single day, and you need some help unthinking some of those thoughts and really looking at what do you need right now, then that can be important to get some help with. What meaning can I draw from the toughest experience I've ever had? So just think about, what is the toughest experience you've ever had? Just take a little moment and breathe that into your cellular DNA. When I think about the toughest experience I've ever had, I could probably think about childhood, And again, I have replaced those thoughts with very loving, assuming positive intent thoughts. I think the most challenging time I had was getting through my residency program. And the whole problem was because I did not assume positive intent in those around me. And I thought that I wasn't good enough and I thought they were out to get me. And, because I was smart, I felt like I kind of upped my game a little bit and I showed off. So you've seen in those movies where they're like pimping the students and the residents and stuff. And I always studied really hard. So I was the one who had all the answers. And so I thought this is great because they'll respect me because I've got all the answers. And no, they just thought I was a know it all and a show off. And so I've learned so much from that because it was one of the most difficult times in my life. And I almost didn't make it through my residency program because I really ticked a lot of people off. So I am assuming positive intent that they are all just caring, loving people who really just wanted the best for the patients and the program. And I was kind of being a jerk. I was being an ass. So, I really have learned from that and moved forward. Probably one of the toughest experiences of my life. But when I was able to flip and use the API, I was able to see how important that is. So you may have areas in your life when you have showed up as, trying to be overconfident or maybe not being the nicest person in the world. And maybe it was because you weren't assuming positive intent and you felt like you had to up your game or something like that. So whatever that is, or maybe it was just, abuse as a child or something like that. So those are some areas you might want to look at. What do I need to quit or cut out of my life? And this is a big thing because sometimes we just keep doing the same thing expecting a different result. And I'm not telling you to go get divorced or to quit your job, but if you're not happy and you need to make different choices, that might be what you need to do. Because to keep doing that same thing expecting a different result, if you're not going to change, you may need to change your environment a little bit so that you can change. And I promise you, when you start assuming positive intent around you, everything changes. I keep having people come up with, oh my gosh, what if people don't really have positive intent? What if I'm married to a real jerk who really is just a jerk? And I'm like, you know what? It doesn't matter because when you change, everything around you changes. And you will recognize more when people don't really have positive intent because you're so focused on positive intent. So if they just continue to not want to change themselves, then maybe you outgrow them and maybe you just kind of, I call it bless and release. Maybe you need to find a way to do something different. And, we are so locked in to, if your core value is commitment, being a committed person, then sometimes it's really hard to get out of some of those relationships. But sometimes you just have to, find what you really need and preserve yourself and cut some things out of your life. And, you say, I don't want to be a quitter, but sometimes if you just keep doing something that is making you absolutely miserable, how is that serving you? So you might think of some areas or some things in your life that you need to quit. And sometimes that's as simple as I need to, quit assuming negative intent. Or sometimes that is, I need to quit this job because it has just grown into something that is so massive that I just can't overcome that momentum. And it's really hard for me to think new thoughts. So you may need to quit something, and it's okay to be a quitter if it's time to be a quitter. If you've really tried to change yourself and your look on life or your outlook on life, you may need to cut some things out of your life. Ask, what am I resisting or attaching to? And I love this. I had a friend share with me not too long ago that attaching to outcomes can be the bane of your existence because they can create a lot of negative thinking. We're just here to experience things. And so, when I used to be, I'm not this kind of doctor anymore that wrote a lot of prescriptions and did a lot of that management where you just write drugs and stuff like that. And then they wouldn't take the medications and they kept getting sicker and I didn't know why. And I was all attached to the outcome of them getting better. And then they come in and they tell me, I'm like, did you take that medication? They're like, no, I didn't take it. I read the side effects on it. I'm like, OMG, oh my gosh, I told you to take that medication. How do you, and then I'm like all tied up with, oh my gosh, do you not think I'm smart? Do you not think I'm good enough? Why aren't you listening to me? Why aren't you? I was all attached to all these outcomes. I was assuming negative intent on them and me, and it just really messed me up. So where are you doing that in your life? Where are you attached to outcomes? Do people ask you for advice and then they don't follow the advice and then you're pissed off at them and then you like don't even want to be their friend anymore because you're like, you don't even listen to me. Why do you even ask my advice? It's because you're attached to the outcome. And you know what? It's not your life and it's not your thought process and it's not your decision making process. So just love them. Just assume positive intent and let them be who they are. Let them be in stage 1 or stage 2. Let them have their splash around and their drama. Just love them. Now, when the drama gets too much and it starts to affect your thinking process and becomes negativity for you in your life, then maybe that's something you need to quit. Maybe you need to find a new friend or bless and release them. Tell them you love them, but maybe you have to do something different. So my motto, and I put that my tagline on all my emails and everything, is do something different. Einstein said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing, expecting a different result. So sometimes you just have to do something different. So um, some things you just have to look at: what am I attaching to or what am I resisting? And sometimes, assuming positive intent, you can be very resistant to. I just had a circumstance come up in my life, a forgiveness circumstance. I really needed to forgive someone. And I was so resistant to it. I wanted to hang on to my victimhood. I wanted to hang on to what they'd done to me and how it messed my life up. And I've hung on to that for so long that I really had a hard time letting that go. And I thought, here I am preaching all this API stuff and the impact on forgiveness and theta waves in the brain that are measurable and positive vibrations and how I create. And I realized that until I could truly assume positive intent in that person and forgive them is basically what I was doing, that I wasn't going to move forward in my awesomeness. So you have to be able to do that. And we just want to hang on and attach to that victimhood sometimes, and it does not serve you at all. What are my gifts and what am I really good at? What can I share with the world? So you know what your gifts are. Don't downplay them. Marianne Williamson says, who am I not to be fabulous? Be freaking fabulous. Put yourself out there. And, some of this API stuff, I've gotten some negative feedback with it. Some people have been not so kind about it. Like, you're just trying to promote yourself or, things like that. And I'm like, well, first of all, I'm going to assume positive intent, that they're just feeling overwhelmed and, a little bit, whatever, threatened by me. I wouldn't know why, but it's just funny when those things show up. So I just have to really kind of step back and go, my intent is positive. My intent is to change the world with API, with assuming positive intent. And so, I can't look at, their feeling threatened or they're being small, because I am not playing small and I'm not going to back down in a corner. I just had a friend tell me the other night that she had a circumstance when she was little and she was out doing gymnastics or something, or dancing or flipping or twirling, and her mom said, quit showing off. And she just that had a huge impact on her about downplaying her gifts, her agility, her spunk, her ability to dance and be vibrant. And so now every time she starts to put herself out there that way, that subconscious programming comes in and it says, don't show off. That's really powerful. So where are those areas in your life where you think that you're showing off or you're doing something negative? Now, there have been areas in my life when I have been a show off and I haven't done it with positive intent. And that did get me in trouble. But there are areas in your life where you have great, great gifts, where you can really shine and be magnanimous and just amazing. And those are not times to back off and play small at all. So that's really important. And how can I celebrate each day of the moments of my life? And so, you might make a list of how you can celebrate your life and what you can do. And, one of the best things that you can do is give to others. And I celebrate my life by doing this. I celebrate life by sharing and the feedback that I get with everyone when I share. So that's my celebration of life. This is when I feel alive. This is when I'm in my passion doing this. So when people are tuned in and turned on and hooked into what I'm saying and they're feeling it and it's changing their life, that's where I feel my passion. That's when I feel that I can really celebrate my life and I'm creating, because we're only happy when we're creating. So this is my creating. So you might have areas in your life where you create that feel really good. So who am I? And that's the biggest question you want to ask. Who am I? What are your core values? How are you showing up? What are the thoughts that you keep thinking? And I'm telling you that the 90% of thoughts that you keep thinking every day, if you don't change those thoughts, nothing in your life is going to change. So one of the easy things that you can do is you can start taking a different route to work. You could start wearing something different, different fingernail polish. If you're a girl, I just kind of recently tried that lately. I cut my fingernails so I could play my guitar, and I just kind of been playing with all sorts of bright colors because it just kind of reminds me to really focus on who I am. Find something that really resonates with you. API, if that really resonates with you, make that a part of who you are, your positivity. So you might just spend a little time getting to know yourself, because I promise you, there's some really cool person in there who really wants to get to know you, and you have to spend time with that person. So if you're so busy in your life, just running crazy all the time, meditating, again, going to beat a dead horse here, meditating is so important because you can connect with your higher self. But take yourself on a date. I love to do different things, go to museums or take a walk or just spend time with myself, getting to know myself, connecting with myself, because I think the Tammy in there is pretty cool. So whoever's inside of you is pretty cool. So get to know them just a little bit. And if you don't really like who that person is showing up, what's projecting out, then do some of these things, implement some of these things in your life to change the thoughts that you're thinking. Okay, few specifics about personal branding, and this is really fun. So this is kind of the meat of everything I'm saying today. So I want you to kind of give these some thoughts. And if you're an entrepreneur, you're a business person, these are really important things for you to consider, because how you present yourself to the world, money is just currency. How you have your self-worth and you present yourself is going to be a reflection of the currency and energy that comes back. So if you want more money or more abundance in your life, then you have to be really clear who you are and who you're putting out there. What are your core values? And this is really important to look at. And one of the things I said about writing your obituary is not only about reverse engineering your life, but beginning with the end in mind and what you want to create in your life, but also what your core values are. What do you want people to say about you on your deathbed or when you're dead and gone? She was kind, she was funny, she was honest, she was trustworthy, she was consistent, she was committed, he was successful, he was a person of service who helped people. How do you want to be remembered? So those core values really help establish your self-branding. So as you're branding yourself, that's what you put out there. So when I decided to brand my business entity, Dr. Tammy, I really spent some time getting clear on who that was. And one of the things that I created was a caricature. I love Fiverr. If you're not familiar with Fiverr, Fiverr, basically for $5, you can go on there and they can create like a signature logo for you, or they can create a caricature, or all sorts of fun things. So it's really fun when you're branding yourself to kind of do this and to find maybe a signature logo or something that just kind of speaks to your funkiness. Maybe you like animal prints, or maybe you like bright colors, or maybe you like rock music and you're kind of a grunge fest kind of, putting yourself out there that way. So just identify what you really resonate with, and then just make that richer, make that bigger, because that can be really fun, and you can blast that all over I'll talk about that in a minute, your social media or whatever you do. And if you want to do that to build your business, that is a really good way for people to really get to know you and identify with you. So when I did Dr. Tammy, I had a signature logo, I had my little caricature with a little stethoscope, and it was kind of fun because I'm kind of fun and quirky. And so I put myself out there as an expert, but also someone that's kind of fun. And so when I do my Naked Doctor show and stuff, I kind of bring in a little bit of my frivolity and, just kind of who I am, so people can really kind of connect with me on that level. And when people connect, then they can make alliances, and then they can change the thoughts that they're thinking. So it's all connected. So what are your core values? Very important that plays in, so that you represent yourself with your core values. I like this. It's a little newspaper thing that says breaking news. If you were in the newspaper this week, how would you want yourself to be in the newspaper? What would you want them to say about you? So this can be a really powerful little thing to kind of help with your self-branding about who you are. So if I were in the newspaper this week, it would say 1 million views on my Assume Positive Intent video, and that people are changing lives and showing people that are helping elderly people across the street, and people that are making business relationships that are amazing, and people that are doing all sorts of wonderful things. So that's what I would want to show up in the newspaper this week. What would you want to show up in the newspaper this week? What did you do? Did you help someone? Did you form or create something new that just really was exciting that you got to be able to share? Marketing yourself. And this is not just marketing yourself in your business or your career. This is marketing yourself as a person based on your core values. I'm not gonna rag on people on social media, and this is a little bit about social media: Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Pinterest. But I see all the time people who are being very negative on social media and talking negatively about people and those kinds of things. So, I think it's just really important that when you put yourself out there as a positive vibration, that you assume positive intent and you stop talking bad about people. I heard the saying one time that when you talk bad about somebody, that's a reflection on who you are, not on who they are. Because they're probably just doing the best they can. And if you are assuming positive intent, whether they really were positive or not, or whether they had good intent, your assumption in some way that they were just doing the best they could, even if it's that they're like an abused little rescue dog or something, and they're might be out there like biting at everybody's heels. But if you can just look at them as like a lost little puppy or a lost little kid, view them that way instead of viewing them and calling them out as being nasty or yucky or hurtful. And even if that's a boyfriend or a girlfriend and they've just cheated on you. When you get on social media and you start talking about how horrible they are, that's just a reflection on you, because what they did, maybe that wasn't serving you, but that's their life and they've got to live their life, and it just makes you look bad. So I'm just saying, consider how you put yourself out there on social media. And if you're always a victim, people see you as a victim. And I'm not saying that it's okay what other people do to you. I'm just saying how you talk about and how you project yourself is very, very important when you are self-branding, when you are becoming a positive person, when you are becoming a loving person. You have to maintain that positivity and that love. So I'm just saying, if you're going to go out there and you're going to like talk nasty about people on Facebook or social media, at the end of the day, it really is just a reflection of you. So think about that when you're posting all that stuff. And if you can just be light and love on social media, if you're going to be out there. And I love social media. That's how I get my API message out to people. That's how I get my life flip message out to people. That's how I let people know what my day job is, which is hormones and helping people, with life coaching and things like that. So social media can be very, very powerful. But if you are feeling negative and all you're seeing is negative intent out there, then maybe you need to take a little social media break until you can be in a space where you're ready to put positivity out there. And there's this little thing called block on Facebook. And if people are not being loving or pleasant to you, you can block them. It's okay. It's your social media site. So I'm giving you permission that you can block people and you can unblock them later, unfriend them later. It's okay for you to not see that negativity. And I do that sometimes. If somebody gets on and they start saying nasty things, I'm not going to talk nasty about them. I'm just going to, don't need that in my life. Thank you very much. And God bless you. And I wish you the best. And I hope that you figure some of this stuff out. But, I don't really need that. So take a little break. Network. I've said over and over and over that isolation is a dream killer. So if there's anything you want to manifest in your life, you have to network with people. And social media is a great way to do that. So make sure that you're just being really positive. And I would tell you that if you're a professional person or an entrepreneur and you're putting pictures of yourself drunk or partying on Facebook, even though you're not talking negative about anybody or negative intent, you are putting an image of yourself out there that might not be able to really be clearly understood. And so what I mean by that is when people look at you and you're like drunk and you're partying and you're all, doing something crazy, they don't know all the circumstances. They don't know that you're not really drunk, that you're just being silly, or they might make judgments. And I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just saying if your life's not serving you the way you want it to, or you're not moving up the ladder at work, could be that people are watching your Facebook page and going, you know what, eh, I don't think so. I don't think they're really, ascribing to their core values. So you want to make sure that your core values match up on your social media. And I guess that's all I'm really saying in networking and in any kind of social media is just make sure that your core values match up. Because if you're putting something out there that is negative in any way and it's not matching up to who you truly are in your core values, then it's going to come across as incongruent, inconsistent, and it's going to throw people off and they're not going to want to connect with you and have alliances with you. So just something to think about. Not saying it's right or wrong, not judging it, just saying if your life isn't serving you the way it is, in any aspect, you might need to look at some of those things. Okay. So I love this. Remember glamour shots? Those were so stinking fun. Glamour shots. They were great. And they really make you feel good about yourself. So I would say find a good photographer and dress up just a little bit and take some glamour shots. And you know, I don't know how I feel about airbrushing. Airbrushing is fun. It's technology. I try not to airbrush too much, but I got to tell you, sometimes it just feels good to take a little bag out from underneath your eyes if you're going to be putting that on some packaging or something like that. So I'm not saying airbrushing is bad. I do think that we have this incongruency with telling women that unless you are a 10 or you're perfect or you don't have any cellulite, that you're not beautiful, because you absolutely are. And so some of that messaging throws us off, especially when we're young or we're girls and we're, developing our personality and all these things I'm talking about today. So I do think that there is a bit that kind of comes out in the media about what we tell our daughters and what we're telling the young girls about what is beautiful, because beautiful can be anything. I've seen all sorts of women on TED Talks who've had strokes, who have had Down syndrome, who are autistic. I mean, I'm autistic. I'm like that. And I believe that I'm beautiful, and I can be different and beautiful. So different is oftentimes beautiful. So I just think, on the airbrushing, that you have to be a little careful with that that's not making you incongruent with who you are. And I see people all the time on social media who use all this airbrushing stuff, all these little apps we have now, and you can so tell that it's artificial. And yeah, if that makes them feel good and it's fun to put that out there, that's fine. I don't judge that. But I think that it is really good to just have some really powerful headshots made of yourself, and especially if you are in the dating or the business industry or job industry, because you're going to want to have some good headshots to kind of put yourself out there and a good example. And I got to tell you something fun that I did, just to be a little transparent and real with you. My husband wanted me to do some what they call boudoir photos. They're like the lingerie photos, and so I did those. And I just felt so beautiful in them. And they did airbrush them just a little bit. I was like, a little cellulite on the butt. Yeah, let's take care of that. But I have this like little book now. Nobody sees it but my husband. I'm not putting it out there for anybody to see, but it was just a gift, a wedding gift to him, and it just feels really good. And I got to tell you, when I'm 80 years old, I'm going to get that book out and I'm going to go, wow, I looked really good in those pictures. And so I think just to have sort of just to have stuck in time something that makes you feel really good about yourself can be really, really powerful. So go have those headshots taken, pay someone, get some professional pics done. Because when you're self-branding, I think it's really important, especially if you're an entrepreneur and you're putting yourself out there. I think it's really fun that when you do social media posts or when you do anything, that you can kind of have a picture of yourself. And I like the caricatures too. So if you want to do a cartoon picture based on one of your cool pictures, you can do that too. But I think it's really important that, especially as you're developing your personality profile and who you are, that people can kind of connect with who you are in that picture. And it can be a really fun process. So I highly recommend doing that. Write your bio. And if you have struggled with a bio or you think you really haven't done that much, I promise you, you have. Even if you have been a stay-at-home mom for 20 years, there is so much richness in the experience that you have there. So you might have to spend a little more time kind of digging through that, but there is so much there. And, when I kind of update my bio every once in a while, and it is okay to really put out there the things that you've done and, not play that down. Be fabulous. Don't think about yourself as like you're showing off. Think of yourself as you are presenting yourself in the most positive light so that people can pull out the bits and pieces of your personality and who you are and your persona that match up with them so that they can create something wonderful as well. So if you don't present those areas where you are a rock star, they're never going to know, and they might not ever have an opportunity to create something because maybe you didn't put that out there that you have that service or that ability to help them with. So, all sorts of little areas that you might look at with that. I think this is Forbes magazine that in the back they do the bio where they break it down of your education and your life and your work experience with pictures and stuff like that. So you can make this really fun. And if you do anything in the entrepreneurial world, I think it's really important to have your bio available because you get more opportunities as a speaker for TV interviews or radio interviews, and when someone calls me and they want me to do a TV interview or a radio interview, and I've been on all the big networks, and it's just amazing because when they call and I have my stuff ready, there's no question, and I make it so easy for them, and they call me again because they're like, they don't have to work at it. It's not hard for them. They basically can have everything done for them. So if you have an area of expertise, especially, and you're trying to get yourself out there in the world, you want to be prepared on paper, on the computer, to be able to put that together and get that right to them so that they know that you are the best person for the job. Or if you're, proposed with a job opportunity or a career opportunity, you've got to be ready to go, and you've got to have yourself branded to the point that your thoughts are aligned with all the super awesome things that you have to offer. One of my funnest things to do when I'm interviewing somebody for a job interview is to ask them their strengths. And people have a really hard time with that. And if somebody is very confidently able to give me their strengths, not to be cocky or be a jerk or anything, but can confidently give me their strengths, I am just blown away by that. So I think that's absolutely amazing as you're self-branding yourself to know what your strengths are and to be ready to present those to the world. I'm going to wrap up here in just a minute because I know everybody's going to want to be getting out to trick-or-treating. It's Halloween night, and I just want to speak to one of the most powerful things that has impacted my life, which is the power of I am. And if you have any religious aspect to your life or you've ever grown up around the Bible, you've probably heard about Moses going and there was the burning bush and God made him take off his shoes. It was, holy ground. And, Moses said when he was supposed to take the message back, oh, sorry, I got a phone call on my phone. When he was supposed to take the message back, basically it was, who am I supposed to tell you that you are? Tell them you are. And God said, I am that I am. Your I am is very powerful. The universe was created with a spoken word, I am. And the universe was spoken with words. The universe was spoken with, let there be light, let there be. And so your I am is very, very powerful as a creator, as a co-creator with God. So what are you? So think about what you are. And I always tell people when they ask me how I am, how are you today? How are you? I say, I am fabulous. I am amazing. I am living the dream. So whatever feels good to you, if you're a guy, you might not want to say fabulous, but it's very important that whatever follows is I am amazing because you are calling into existence mediocrity or amazingness. So you get to pick based on your thoughts that become your emotions, which become your hormonal chemical processes, which become your reality, which become your destiny. So your I am is very, very important. So there are two of the most powerful words, and everything that's said after I am shapes your destiny, shapes your story. What's your story? And be very clear about what you are. I am amazing. I am beautiful. I am a child of God. I am a wonderful mother. I am a wonderful wife. I am. I am someone who listens. That's a great item to have. I am someone who talks less. I am someone who makes other people laugh. I am someone who takes action. I'm always getting on to my husband because I'm like, oh my gosh, you forget to tell me things all the time. It's so frustrating. And then I have to remember the flip, the assumed positive intent. He's an action taker. He is a go getter. He is an entrepreneur. He is like light years ahead of anybody in the game. He's an action taker. So I'm an action taker. I ask the real question they want to know. I get to the bottom. I get to the positive intent really quickly. And that's one of the beautiful things about positive intent is when you practice assumed positive intent, you get to the truth so much quicker. When you assume negative intent, you just make all these assumptions and all this negativity comes in and all this drama, and you can't get to the truth of anything. And sometimes the truth is that person was just tired or grumpy, or that person just didn't feel good when they said that. Sometimes that's the truth. And so if you're assuming all this stuff, or that you're not good enough and you're assuming all this negative intent, it can really get in the way of you having a positive experience with that person. I am a person who APIs. I'm a person who assumes positive intent. So I want to leave you with a little saying. I absolutely love this. I want you to just kind of take this into your cellular DNA, breathe it in. A bird sitting on a tree is never afraid of the branch breaking because it knows it has wings. How many times do you focus on the branch and not on your wings? Your self branding is your wings, and we all have wings. We all are wonderful, amazing superheroes inside. We know all our truths, just like Dorothy and the ruby slippers. We know our way home. We have all the answers inside. Stop telling yourself that you don't, and start focusing on your wings. And if you're in a relationship and you're worried about that person cheating on you, or you're worried about them hurting you, you're focused on the branch. You're not focused on your wings. And I promise you, if you're focused on the branch, they will probably hurt you. They will probably cheat on you, because someone who's focused on them all the time or focused on the branch is a freak, is a crazy freak. And I've been that crazy freak before. I know it. Trust me. But when I focus on my wings, when I focus on being the amazing, powerful, wonderful superhero that is inside me, the fabulousness that is inside me, then the people around me can't help but love me and appreciate me and want to resonate with me. So focus on your wings, not on the branch. If you're at work and you're worried about people, messing you up or getting you in trouble or sabotaging you, you are focused on the branch. You're not focused on your wings. And if you would spend more time being focused on how to make that the best positive experience for yourself, all of that goes away. I promise you it does. So it is so impactful. It's just a beautiful thing. So hope you've enjoyed today. Hope this has been helpful. Please continue to assume positive intent. I changed up my API just a little bit because I kind of thought, I keep kind of writing over the same thing every day. Maybe I should change that up a little bit. So I kind of changed my brain a little bit. So think different thoughts. If you want a different reality, you've got to think some different thoughts. Again, 90% of your thoughts are the same every single day. So if you want to have a different existence, you have to think some different thoughts. So hopefully this inspired some different thoughts with you. The next module is going to be Blueprint Redesign for Your Life. So we're going to talk about how to redesign your life. And Tony Robbins says happiness is when the blueprint for your life matches up to what you think it should be. That's when you're happy. But when it doesn't, you're not happy. So true happiness is matching up that blueprint. So what's the blueprint? I always say, I love the saying, I'm going to stop shoulding all over myself. Shoulding, SHOULD. I should do this or I should do that. Stop shoulding on yourself. And that's how we're going to change the blueprint so that it matches up, that you're completely thrilled and happy with your life, to make that blueprint match up. So that's going to be a fun one. So I'll probably do that tomorrow or the next day. I'm in clinic, I think, all day tomorrow. So probably be Wednesday before I get to that Facebook Live. But I'm going to record it as I'm doing it for the YouTube. And it's these 6 modules go with my book, Life Flip. So if you want to get Life Flip, it's on Amazon right now. A little shameless plug there. Anyway, hope you all have a fabulous day. Please continue to assume positive intent in the people, if no one else, just under your own roof, that you love and honor and appreciate. Assume positive intent in everything that they do. It will change your life. Then when you got that down, assume positive intent in the people out there in the world, at your work, on the street. assume positive intent with God. He's not lost your file. He hasn't forgot about you. Everything is happening just the way it should be. You're not broken. You don't need fixed. You may just need to make some different choices, and hopefully this is helping you do that. I love you all very much. Have a blessed day, and API, everyone. Bye-bye.